In this next section, we're going to show you some basic concepts around our new cyber protection product. As you can see on the screen, we've got a bunch of different scenarios that we're going to run through in a minute. But before we do, I just wanted to make the note that this isn't simply about security and RMM tools and patch management and vulnerability assessment. It's about the way that these things interoperate with each other, how the backup works with the security and how the patch management works with the backup. And so all of these things are tied systems. It's not merely a matter of having a bundle of different products, but rather a bunch of things that have been thoughtfully put together to work well with one another. And the first thing we're going to talk about is continuous data protection. This is a feature that has been often requested, and the idea behind it is simple, that between our backups, when we're working with important applications, especially those that have content creation as part of them, we want to make sure that we don't lose any of our documents as we're working on them, any of our application data as we're working on it. And so in between those backups, we're recording each of the changes that are being made to those applications. This ensures that you won't lose any of your data even between backups. Next one we have is safe recovery. The idea behind safe recovery is that when we go to recover, we want to not just recover the data that was there, but we want to recover it safely. We want to make sure that it has the appropriate antivirus applied to it. We want to make sure that we have the patch management done to that before we put that out in the field so that we don't have a reoccurrence of problems, that we can make sure that there are no infections or vulnerable images out there. The next one is that we can scan for malware in the Acronis Cloud. This means that we can do deeper scans than we've done before because we can do those scans against the backup at length as opposed to taking up time on the production machine while we're performing our backups and security sweeps. And so this way we can look for things like rootkits and bootkits to make sure that we have really clean scans. We've introduced something called CPOCs, or Cyber Protection Operation Centers. We'll talk a little bit about those more in a minute. But what they allow us to do now is have smart protection plans where we can proactively tell our partners, hey, there's a problem that's coming your way. Some of them are very localized. Hey, there's a virus that is affecting your country, or hey, there's a hurricane heading your way. You might want to perform a backup. These kind of things can reduce your reaction time and avoid data loss by allowing you to be proactive. The next one we want to talk about is fail-safe patching. The idea is sometimes patches don't work out and we have to roll back immediately from the patch we just applied. And so this allows you to do that quickly, safely, comfortably. Sometimes things will go wrong and you will need to have a forensic investigation done against what is going wrong. And so we have a special forensics mode where we can gather up even more data that we normally might have during the backup process so that we can go back and find out what went wrong later and provide better compliance. We have a data compliance and reporting and data protection map. The idea is that sometimes when we're doing a file backup, we need to make sure that we have all the files that are related to the application that we're trying to back up. And so this makes sure that we don't miss any of the important data that we're trying to back up. We now have global local whitelists that will help prevent false detections. We want to be as aggressive as possible when applying our security, but we don't want there to be a lot of false positives. Doing whitelisting by hand is very time consuming, and so we've introduced a way that you can also do this in a very automated way using our heuristic support to make sure that you have the most aggressive protection possible. As we mentioned a minute ago, our Acronis Active Protection is a feature of our backup product. We build upon that technology with our own antivirus and anti-malware stack that includes a static AI analyzer, an anti-malware engine, and a behavioral engine, so that we're using all of the different methodologies that are available to identify when things are going on. And it now has support for native integration within the Windows Security Center. We have a new feature that allows us to do auto discovery and remote agent detection. This allows us to very easily find out what devices are in our network and also apply all of the agents that are needed so that we don't have to count on our end users to help us with that problem. We have a vulnerability assessment feature. This allows us to make sure that we're looking for any of the vulnerabilities that are going on the system, including key applications from Microsoft, Adobe, Oracle, browsers, and other software. And this will help us update and do patch management against the system when we find that there is a vulnerability. And speaking of patch management, we're adding about 250 to 300 exposures a week that we are patching for. We know that different companies have different patch management procedures, and so we have a wide range of ways that you can apply your patches, including full auto approval, but many companies want to apply them manually or during maintenance windows or staging them ahead of time and rolling them out. What we know is that companies do generally a poor job of patching their systems, oftentimes being as much as 3 months behind the active patches, which leaves them vulnerable at all times. Matter of fact, a lot of the attacks that we have seen lately have been directly related to the failure to patch. For instance, with the Equifax breach, it was one server that didn't get properly patched. That was the hole that allowed billions of data pieces to leave Equifax. And then with WannaCry, we've heard a lot about the WannaCry attacks, but if you were properly patched at the time that that attack came out, you would not have been affected by it. The reason why it affected so many companies is because those companies had not applied their patches. We also include URL filtering. We obviously want to keep our end users from going to malicious websites that would make them vulnerable. And so we also have the ability to stop that. We also include the ability to blacklist and whitelist, so you can specify other URLs that you do not wish your end users to use. We do support Windows Defender antivirus and Microsoft Essentials Management. You might ask, why are you supporting other antivirus solutions if you have such a great one? The answer is, we want to support our customers in the way they want to be supported. And many of them have to use these products. And because of that, we want to make sure that we can help them where they need to be helped. And even for these products, managing them in mass is very difficult, and our product will make it much simpler by centralizing it. We also have a drive health monitoring tool that will make a check to see whether your drives are in good condition with about a 98.5% accuracy rate. And so that if you do see a drive is vulnerable to a failure, you can appropriately replace that beforehand so that you don't have any downtime. And we give you flexible monitoring and reporting. If you've been with us for a while, you know that we've had great monitoring tools in our dashboard. We are now adding a bunch of new ones, including the health monitoring, new alerts, things related about vulnerability assessment, patch management around there, and also our new CyberFit score. And one of the best features I think that are in the new product is our remote desktop. The ability to go out and get onto our end user's device without them having to do very much of anything. As we know, we have many more remote workers now than we used to, and we need to be able to help them, and not all of them are technically savvy. We have two different ways that we can attach to those remote desktops. One is by having an RDP client installed in the target device, but if you don't have that, you can even just use our HTML5 client and make sure that you can get onto any of the devices that you need to get onto. And all of this is not a different set of products. This is one product. It's backup, anti-malware, vulnerability assessment, patch management, antivirus, anti-malware, all this good stuff in one location, in one plan, managed centrally, so that you can give your customers the best automation and onboarding experience possible. And we've made it easy to upsell. We've included into the system, if you have just a backup solution provided and a customer applies the vulnerability assessment, they can see, hey, you've got all of these additional products that you might be able to use in terms of our Cyber Protect product. And so it will proactively ask them, would you like to purchase those things? You don't have to have this on, it's an option, but it is a great upsell opportunity for you. We also have our Acronis Cyber Protection Operations Center, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. There are 3 of them. They're strategically placed around the world in our 2 headquarters in Singapore and Schaffhausen, Switzerland, and in our large US office in Scottsdale, Arizona. Collectively, it means that we have 24/7, 365 support, where we have a team that is looking for situations that are coming up that need to be notified to our partners, provide vulnerability awareness, proactive detection, notifications, make sure that you can be proactive with your security.